It's said that it takes 10,000 hours to truly master a skill. But what if you only want to give it 24 hours? Have you ever had that experience where you come across this really vibey video on socials showing this skill or hobby, and you fall down the rabbit hole watching all this content, reading about it, and you're picturing in your head how this is going to change your life or how this unlocks a whole new side of your personality? I know I've been there, but reality is, it doesn't always work out like that. I will usually try it and go,
well, that was cool,
and then be ready to move on. Now, I don't think there's any shame in giving something a shot and deciding it just isn't for you. So instead of dedicating the next few years of my life to try and master this skill or hobby, let me just start with seeing how far I can get in 24 hours when it comes to printmaking. So how exactly is this gonna work? First thing to note is initially I was gonna do this in a true 24 hours straight, but I realized then that my sleep deprivation towards the end would counteract the improvement that I would be making. So instead I'm breaking up the 24 hours between 2 days instead of doing it all in one day. Second thing to note, I want to make this challenge as realistic as possible as to what it's like for any of us to pick up a new skill or hobby. And so that means I'm leaving both my research and my shopping to happen within the 24-hour time frame. I've done a basic research just to vet and make sure that this idea makes sense and could potentially work. Third thing to note is I'm not sure how obvious my progress is going to be. So I figured I would come up with some criteria that we could use to compare and evaluate all the prints at the end to see if my overall score is getting higher. Now that you're all caught up, I will see you when it's ready to begin. Good morning. It's officially 7 a.m. and we are officially starting the 24-hour countdown clock. Now, since it's 7 a.m., that gives me about 2 hours before the craft store opens for me to go get supplies. And so in that time, I'm going to be researching about printmaking, figuring out what sort of supplies I'm going to need, figure out what projects I can tackle in this time that are progressively complex and interesting. It's currently 8:15 a.m. I actually have to run out to a doctor's appointment, and so I'm done the research, but I think on my way back from my appointment, I will stop at the craft store to pick up all the supplies. I got the supplies. Let's head home. We are now back from my doctor's appointment and from the store, and the time is currently 10:33 a.m. Let me take us through what I learned with my research this morning. I'll take us through the supplies, and then I will take us through the plan that I kind of have half formed in my head of how we're gonna do this. Printmaking is an artistic technique that involves transferring images onto another surface, typically paper or fabric. The artist creates a composition on an alternative surface, such as metal or wood or linoleum, which is called a matrix.
The matrix is everywhere.
And the transfer occurs when the matrix is then inked and a sheet of paper is pressed into contact with it. We are specifically doing relief printing, which is what you commonly see, where we are carving away the bits of this that we don't want the ink to sit on. And specifically, we're gonna use for our matrix material linoleum. From what I can tell, it's the easiest to find, pretty affordable, and most beginner-friendly material. It's been around for like 100 years, but it was really in the 1950s when Henri Matisse and Pablo Picasso started using it that it became more well-respected, because a lot of people looked at it and went,
that's too easy to carve, so that is not real art.
A little snobbery is happening. Let me now take you through with what we acquired at Ye Old Craft Store. A pencil and a Sharpie to draw my designs on with, 4 of these 4x6 blocks, and 1 of these 6x12 blocks for carving my designs into. A carving tool to do the actual carving, duh. A set of inks specifically for block printing so they'd be the right viscosity. A piece of glass to mix the ink on and to roll it out. A roller or bayer for evenly distributing the ink onto my designs. And some mixed media paper and blank cards to print the designs onto. The next tool that people talked about was some sort of printing press to apply the even pressure to transfer the image. I was not gonna buy a whole printing press for this project, so we're just gonna use my hand. Let me kind of walk you through where my head is at for what we're gonna try and tackle in the next 24 hours. So the first thing I wanna tackle is I just wanna start simple where we're just gonna do one block, we're just gonna do one color and just kind of get the feel for carving an image, doing all the steps of inking it and transferring it. So to increase the difficulty, I want to then evolve into doing prints with multiple colors. The first method you can use is called the jigsaw method. And this is good if you have different portions of your design that you want different colors, but not necessarily if you want to layer different colors on top of each other. So next we're gonna try reduction printing, where the process starts with carving a design into your lino block and then printing the first color. And then once you print the first color, you then go in and carve away a little bit more, adding more detail, and then you apply your second color, print it, and you keep going until you have as many layers and as many details as you want. The cool thing of this is after the completion of the print, another edition can never be made because the block that was used to make it has been slowly carved away for the different layers of print. With that plan laid out, let us begin. I'm going to start by working on figuring out my first design. I decided I was just gonna start with a geometric pattern. And this one has both like some straight lines and some curves. So I thought this was a good way to start. I've so far colored in everything that I need to carve away because I think this is what makes the most sense to my brain. But I didn't want to line it all because I wanted to see how this went just in case I need to make adjustments to this. So I have the finest tip on and I guess we try this. Okay, that's actually easier than I thought it would be. Like it's really smooth. I was wondering if there's going to be much of a sound from doing this. It's very silent. This is a sneaky art form. So far, I really like that how I did it was the black is what I'm carving away. Okay, this is very satisfying. I can confirm. I guess I should check the time so we can see how long it takes me to carve this 4x6 print. Right now, it is 11:35. So let's see how long it takes me to carve this whole thing. That took way longer than I thought. Carving is officially done. I don't know if you can see it. The time is currently 1:20 p.m. So I think that meant I spent 3 hours on this, which I don't know. I need to look back at the camera. That feels crazy. After doing the one bit with Sharpie and carving that away, the pencil honestly held up fine. So I didn't bother tracing the rest of the Sharpie. Biggest concern I have right now is I hope that I went deep enough. I feel like I could keep messing with this, but decided that might as well just try it, see where it's at, take notes, and get better by doing more versions. I know it kind of looks like fish, but I think I want it to feel more leaf-like, so I'm gonna make a green. I think I might have too much because the roller's not really rolling. Here's what it looks like. The paper on the bottom. I'm trying to put the pressure as even as possible. Moment of truth. That does not look good. I put too thick of a coat of color on, I can tell. See number 2. Okay, number 2 is better. I think the Sharpie is transferring. Current time is 2:49. I just finished my very first round of printing. I ended up getting 6 prints out of design that I called Leaves and Peas. I think what I want to try for the next design is still doing just one color and one block, making like basically a smaller stamp that is like a repeating pattern. So I'm gonna go on Pinterest, look at some stuff, get some inspiration. It is currently 3:53 p.m. I finished designing the stamp. It's going to be this little 2.5 by 2.5 square so that it's kind of like a bookmark dimension. This should allow the stamp that it can go side by side and then 8 rows up. Initially I did it as rectangular, but I realized that part of what you need, the ability to turn it to make the corners match. Now I'm going to carve this and then we're gonna try printing this pattern. First roll, this looks pretty good. here's how the pattern looks. And okay, that was like a little overloaded. Oops. Okay, well, let's see if I have enough left on for another one. That was better. No! It is currently 5:04 p.m. So I've just shy of 2 hours until I need to wrap up for the day because I have plans this evening. What I learned from this experience, first off, be very careful that you are applying the stamp the correct way or else you can mess up the pattern. If I was to do this style again, I would make sure that on the back of the stamp itself, I would mark where the corner of the stars are. I can still visually see like, yes, I'm lining up the right corners. A lot of noise in the background, which is like just bits that haven't been carved down enough. I trimmed those bits since I could see where was holding onto the ink. Managing something so small, I felt like was definitely a little more finicky and fiddly with this piece I made because both of these corners are carved away. When I was applying pressure, it was good to like apply pressure like this way, not that way. I definitely see how a printing press would be very helpful in just getting the even pressure. With my last 2 hours, I'm going to try designing one more, I think 4x6 print, 2 patterns. Hi, Ozzy. Since my first 2 patterns have been geometric, I think there's less of a gauge of, does this look like the thing it's supposed to look like? And so I think for this last one, I'm going to try and do more of a kind of like still life. I don't know if I'll have the time to print it tonight, but let's see if we can get this next art piece done. Fast forward 2 hours later, it is 6:58, basically 7 o'clock, which means in total, we spent 10 hours and 15 minutes working on printmaking today. I definitely feel sore in the hand and sore in the back after being hunched over the table all day. I am like 90% done my onigiri. I think it will take me about 30 to 45 minutes more to finish it in the morning. I can tell my etching is improving. I think I'm getting a better depth and kind of cleaner, more 90-degree sides. So I'm curious to see how this comes out. Good morning. It is 7 a.m. on day 2. Today is going to be a 13-hour and 45-minute day to get us across the 24-hour timeline. First off, we're going to finish carving that one lino block and do those prints, and then I think we're ready to move on to multicolor prints, which is going to be exciting. It is 7:48 a.m. There's our countdown. I just finished carving my little onigiri print or matrix, and I used an X-Acto knife to cut off the corners. I will now zoom you in and you can enjoy this process of watching me print. I don't know, is it satisfying? I hope it's satisfying. That is my best first print, hands down. Look at that, that's so cute. It is currently 8:50 a.m. We still have just under 12 hours on the clock, and I officially finished doing all the onigiri prints. When I was mixing the green, because I was trying to get the shade right, I ended up having way too much ink. I did 15 prints of the onigiri to use up the ink. There's like a lot of marks where it kind of looks staticky, and I think that's because how many peaks there were in the ink that I used. So good to know, keep doing small batches of ink. Now it's officially time for us to move on to multicolored, which I'm excited for. I think I was nervous about yesterday, yesterday, but I'm excited to try it because I can tell I'm getting better. I'm gonna figure out what my design is, get going on carving that, and we'll see what time we're ready to start printing it. 10:43 in the morning. Finished my matrix for our first jigsaw print. I decided to go for word art, typography, font. I don't know what the correct term is, but it is inverted so that when we print it, it's actually the right way. Next thing is going to be cutting this into pieces. My thinking is that it'll be most impactful if the words are one color and then the top and bottom are different colors. Since we're working with two colors and I only have one roller, I'll roll on the word, the top and bottom bits. Since they're super simple, I'm just gonna use a paintbrush to put the ink onto that. And for colors, I'm thinking that the word moxie I'll do in black so it's really impactful, and then I think the color I want to go for on the outside is like an orange. Because this is multiple pieces and I'll be crazy trying to pick it up, I do think we're gonna be like laying the paper on top of it. I do not know how I feel about this orange and black combo. It might be giving Halloween too much for my liking. Oh no. It's not great, but I don't think it's giving Halloween.
You sure about that? You sure about that?
So that first attempt of printing it all at once really didn't work. You can see the like brush strokes. So I think the roller is quite critical for it going on evenly. I know I've seen this before where you do it in stages. So I've printed the word moxie, cleaned off all the matrices, and I put little registration marks, like just faint pencil dots, so I can line this up. It allows these pieces to fit in. This is the best one yet. Oh, hi Ozzy, you're gonna help us with these? We are at noon, which means we got, 8 hours and 45 minutes left. I have 6 of the moxie prints. I will say that right now is probably the lowest energy I've felt so far. That last attempt did not turn out the way I wanted to, but it's part of the learning process. Where's the drama if all of this is easy and goes perfectly? With the fact that I have just under 9 hours left, I definitely think I can do at least 2 more designs. We're definitely still gonna do the reduction style printing. So I'm wondering if my last 2 prints will both be reduction style, but first I'm gonna take a break and then I'm going to figure out my design. The time is 2:30 p.m. So it's been a while since we talked. When I tell you that it took every last single brain cell of my brain to figure out how to do the layers of this print, I'm not joking. I'm really wishing I did pick up white because that would give me a lot more options and flexibility with the colors, but I don't have that. So I was really trying to figure out what sort of image could I make with primary colors that I would still feel like was a vibe and wasn't just me having to work with what I had. With yellow and red and the fact that I can make orange, I figured I'd do a red panda. Here is like my sketch. I remember reading somewhere online that it's best to do stuff from lightest to darkest. So this is gonna be my yellow layer. My orange layer will then layer on top of my yellow, my red layer. Last but not least, just a couple of finishing touches with my black layer. A little intimidating to get started, but let's do this. It's 2:34. We have just over 6 hours left on the clock. I don't know if I'm gonna get to a second one. 4:33 p.m. I finished carving the first layer, if I've done this right. If you look on the back, look at how cursed that is. I ended up using tracing paper to trace my design that I did in Procreate and then transfer this over to this because, yeah, as you can see, my freehanding, that's nightmare fuel. We are using that. First things up is gonna be the yellow. We'll see how far my ink goes, but I'm gonna aim for about 5 to 10 prints. We are on to round 2 of printing. I realized I forgot to make registration marks for a bunch of the prints, so I don't know how well this is gonna work. First, I need to mix the orange color that will be our next layer. And then I made a total of 7 prints. Okay, attempt 1, it kind of worked, but I got stuff to clean up. Ozzy! As you can see behind me, dinner is being prepared. Me forgetting the registration marks has been quite detrimental to lining stuff up. The time is 5:39. We got 3 hours basically until the 24 hours is over. Well, I'm eating dinner and then I'm gonna finish the red pandas. I am really tired, but I was not expecting the mental fatigue to be so real. Remainder of this like multi-stage, I think we're just gonna go into a montage. I'm gonna listen to my audiobook. You can listen to some whatever music I'm inserting now. It's officially 7:39 p.m. We have 1 hour, 5 minutes, and 50 odd seconds left on the clock. Finished doing the red panda prints. I definitely have some thoughts. I think for the last hour, I'm gonna make more of this print with this repeating stamp that I have. We're just gonna finish off really cozy, really chilled. The time is officially 8:44. I have 40 seconds left. I took the stamp and I did this print on the card, and the last thing I've been doing is labeling all the art prints and coming up with names for them and writing down what number of print it is in the series. Here's the countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There we go. That's officially 24 hours of printmaking done. I'll talk to you tomorrow and we'll talk about this experience and how my prints came out and whether I actually got better. All right, I will see you tomorrow. Good morning. Welcome back to my kitchen table. If you do recall at the beginning of this video, I said that I came up with some criteria, a scoring system to try and objectively evaluate if I made progress. I have put it into a little spreadsheet in front of me on my computer. We're gonna look at my best print and worst print from each design, and we're gonna score it based on 4 factors. First is the crispy score, which is looking at how clean the lines are and if there's smudging. Second factor is the smooth score, which is looking at how even the ink distribution is and if there's patchiness. Third score it's gonna get is its snatch score, which is how accurate the registration is, my alignment of colors and details. And then the last factor we're gonna consider is the complexity of the design and printing with it. Very first design we created was what I have called my leaves and peas design. My best print of this series is number 4. And I think my worst one from this design is number 1, which, you know what? That's fair enough. Hello, this is VoiceOver Bria, and instead of making you sit through 30 minutes of me walking you through each score I gave for each 12 of the prints that we are reviewing, I'm just gonna rapid fire tell you the score I gave them, and then you can pause the screen if you want to read a little bit more about my thinking behind each of the scores. I won't get that time back that I spent talking you through the scoring, but let me save you the time. For my best leaves and peas print, it got a 3 for crispiness, a 3 for smoothness, a 3 for snatchness, and a 1 for complexity, bringing its total score to 10. As far as my worst version of this design, its crispy score was a 1, its smooth score was a 1, its snatch score was still a 3, and its complexity score was also still a 1, which brought it to a total score of 6. Moving on to my next design is the series I called Raspberry Stars. I only made 2 for my very best Raspberry Stars print. I gave it a 2 for crispiness, a 2 for smoothness, a 3 for snatchness, and a 2 for complexity, which brought its total score to 9 out of 16. Fast forward to my worst print, or really rewind since it was my first print of this design. The score was a 1 for crispiness, a 1 for smoothness, a 1 for snatchness, but a 2 for complexity, bringing its total score to 5 out of 16. Moving on to design number 3, my little onigiri, which I think came out super adorable. My best one actually might have been my first print, number 1, and my worst, number 5. My best version of this one, I gave it a 3 for crispiness, a 3 for smoothness, a 4 for how snatched it was, and a 1 for complexity, bringing its total score to 11 out of 16. My worst version of my oishi onigiri, I gave it a 1 for crispy, a 2 for smooth, a 4 for snatch, and a 1 for complexity, bringing its total score to 8 out of 16. The next design I made, it's called Moxie. When I think of the word Moxie, I think of it as a very sassy word, so I wanted a title that kind of encapsulated it. This was my first attempt at doing multiple colors. This was specifically using the jigsaw method. So this one, I finished it and I was kind of defeated and frustrated, but I think I would try this print again on a fresh day and maybe with some different colors that I knew I would be happy with. My best print is my number 6. My worst print we're gonna go with is my number 2. My best version of this one, I gave it a 3 for crispiness, a 2 for smoothness, a 2 for snatchness, and then a 3 for complexity, giving it a score of 10 out of 16. Now, my worst version of this print got a 2 for crispiness, a 1 for smoothness, which honestly, maybe it should have gone to 0. It was bad. But anyways, it got a 2 for snatchness and I got a 3 for complexity once again, bringing its total score to 8 out of 16. Moving on to my last lino cut design that I made, the one that took all my brain cells, my red panda design. And I have mixed feelings about how this came out. I think as far as taking my concept and bringing it into reality, that aspect worked, but there were a lot of things that went wrong. First off, because I was trying to go from lightest color to darkest color, the body is yellow and it is pretty faint. Second thing, I didn't always do registration marks, and even when I did do registration marks, they didn't line up super great. For a print like this, having a registration alignment jig would be so helpful. Also, needing to do the design, I would ink it, I'd print it, and then I have to go wash everything, then I have to come back, carve a little more. That repetition, I was just getting frustrated with, especially because it wasn't coming together. It was so heartbreaking and scary, and slowly cutting up my beautiful design. Obviously, that's kind of also the cool magic of it. If I was to attempt this again, I would do it fresh. I would probably stick to really simple printing designs, get the hang of it, maybe start with fewer colors. I made 7 of these. My best print was number 6 and my worst print was number 3. Something I need to note for all of the red panda designs, I was so over this. I was so frustrated that it wasn't working. I do not think I did my best work. I just wanted to be done making this print, and I think that shows in the final product. My very best version of this print, I gave it a 3 for crispiness, a 2 for smoothness, a 2 for snatchness, and then definitely a 4 for complexity, which gave it a total score of 11 out of 16. Now, looking at my poor red panda, the poorest red panda of them all, it got a 2 for crispy, a 1 for smooth, a 1 for snatch, and a 4 for complexity, bringing its total score to 8 out of 16. We're on to the last design. After both my jigsaw and reduction style prints with all the kinks that I had to work out with it, I decided I just wanted to end on a high note, end on something simple and satisfying. So I went back to my stars repeating stamp print and I said, let's do this in blue. Let's start with my best one, which I'm gonna say is the card. My very best one got a 2 out of 4 for crispy, a 3 for smooth, a 3 for snatch, and a 2 for complexity, giving it a total score of 10 out of 16. My worst version of this print got a 2 for crispy, a 2 for smooth, a 2 for snatch and a 2 for complexity. 2s across the board, bringing its total score to 8 out of 16. Here are the prints from worst to best. I think it's fairly accurate. We had a lot of ties. Overall, the scoring of each print is pretty spot on. Some of my more complex designs, even though the prints came out really bad because they're so complex, scored higher. Our highest ranked design was actually a tie between the onigiri and the red panda. My lowest scoring design was my raspberry stars. So when you look at my very first design, which was the leaves and peas, my average score between my best and worst was a 7.5. And when you look at my last carving design, which was my red panda, my average score between the best and worst was 9.5. So I think that does show I did progress. Okay, I just made a little chart plotting my scores across time and seeing how I did. I don't know if I would say I got better, but it seems like I became more consistent. My worst results were less bad. So that's interesting to know. So was this 24-hour speed run of printmaking what I expected? I think it was. First off, the 24 hours went by faster than I thought it would, but I think that helps that right now it's springtime in Canada, which means we have long, gorgeous, sunny days. But I was not expecting how mentally fatigued I would get towards the end of it. I'd definitely say that by doing this in 24 hours and coming up with the different prints and trying different techniques, I kind of have a sense of which ones I enjoy and lean to more. I really love that repeating stamp. I also was surprised how long it takes me to carve a lino cut block. I'm not usually someone who really enjoys tedious tasks, but I think it's so satisfying getting to carve out your design. Also, it's not too thinking intensive, so getting to throw on a TV show or an audiobook or listening to some music, that was really nice. I think made this much more relaxing. It's good to know that this is just one of those activities I can kind of pick up and get lost in. I definitely think this is something I will continue to do. It's kind of fun to have unlocked this new expression of creativity and of art. Overall, this was a really great experience, and I would definitely be interested in trying this 24-hour sprint, this 24-hour speed run when it comes to other skills, activities, art forms, stuff like that, because I think it kind of gave me a really good sense of what I enjoy about this, what I don't enjoy, where are the areas that I could use improvement to progress. I think it gave me a really good snapshot of my relationship with this art form. So take this as your sign. If you've been thinking about trying a new skill or activity or art or anything in that world, to try maybe doing it just like 24-hour speed run, go all out, see how you feel, and then you'll have a better idea if it's something you want to keep going with or you're ready to move on. And let me know in the comments what you would speed run, what you would binge, what you would spend 24 hours straight doing, because maybe you're gonna inspire me to try something new. If you've made it to the end of this video, thank you for being here. It was a delight and a joy having you as my buddy and joining me on this experience. I hope that this video can be a little bit of joy. And if you feel like you need a little bit more joy than what this video could give you, maybe you want to subscribe so you never miss more videos that I create. And maybe if you want to keep hanging out, you will click the video that YouTube thinks you will enjoy. But anyways, I'm glad you were here, and I'll see you in the next one.